Hello, my name is Chris Evers, and welcome to Take Two. This is the show that takes a look back at previous guests from our Friday Conversation show over on IG Live. I take a moment to revisit old guests and see the strides and moves they've made. Today's guest is no stranger to social media, YouTube, and the small screen. Welcome, Lamont White, also known as the Gay Dating Coach. What's up, Lamont? How you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Chris, thanks for the invitation. How you feeling today,
I'm
sir?
good. I'm good. So, as I stated in the intro, this is basically a look back at previous guests, some
Hmm.
guests that I had an amazing time with, and that the people really reacted well. And this is from IG. I want to take this time just to look back and see where you're coming from, and then what you're doing moving forward. So, what's been going on?
That's good. Listen, thanks for having me. I'm back for take two. I think it's awesome. Things have been going wild and crazy. I'll say that is, I do matchmaking. A lot of people know me from my Instagram show, which is spicy, fun, and crazy for singles. But the real like work, the bread and butter is my matchmaking company. And it is cuffing season right now. That's where everybody gets a little cold and are like, I'm lonely. I want to boo. I want to bay. So I have been really working hard to help guys find love through my matchmaking company. Even so much that I even brought on another matchmaker to help me with the workload, caseload, the numbers of guys who actually want to get into a relationship. So I'm happy about
Okay, so talk a little bit about that because I know everyone does know you from the IG live show that you do, and like, as you said, it is very spicy. How
that.
did that IG live show really influence everything moving forward, including the company now?
Yeah, yeah. So the Instagram, like, it's weird. It's like super weird that I can't go anywhere in the United States at a gay function that someone doesn't say, "Hey, you're that guy." Oh, and I thought you were taller. Like you're that gay dating coach. You're so short, right? So it definitely has given me a lot more brand recognition where people are aware that I exist, and then they're more curious about like, hey, well, I know you do the show, but what else do you do? So I really appreciate just like the influence of the show. And I like hearing people saying from the show that they actually find love and they like some of the dating coaching advice that I give, especially when I hear a guy walk up to me where I'm like at a restaurant. He's like, yeah, I heard you talking about X, Y, and Z. I tried it and it actually worked. So thank you for the advice. Yep, yep. Yeah, yeah. So I think number one is you got to manage communication. You got to manage conflict. No relationship, whether you're married, dating, boyfriend, whatever you call it, situationship, if you don't manage how you communicate with another person, like using your words or understanding the nuances of language, showing up. Communication is really about showing up verbally, expressively, physically. It's not going to work. But also, you got to manage conflict. No relationship is absent from conflict. If someone says that they're lying or they're not being their most authentic self in that relationship. So it's about navigating the uncomfortable conversations, talking about your fears, being honest about your mistakes, allowing your partner to make mistakes and you still being there. A lot of people are afraid that if you make a mistake, that the partner is going to leave or that's going to be the end of the relationship. But allow your partner to make mistakes and say, hey, babe, I'm not going nowhere. Let's see how we can get over this and just learn from it and keep being together. So manage communication and conflict, and then you'll be able to stay in a great relationship.
Okay, that sounds like a recipe for something positive and really really good.
Hmm. It sounds great, but it's hard as hell. Like it's hard.
Listen,
It is hard.
I listen. I think you and I get it. Being married men, I think we get that. It's a constant thing. It's something you have to work at. Um,
Yeah.
People when they come to you, what are they really looking for? Are they looking for you to hook them up with someone? Do they think you have this magic pill that if you find somebody for them, it's an instant hit?
Right, right. So apparently they think matchmaking is like buying a new car. Like there's a whole lot that I have, like an inventory of amazing cars or amazing guys. And I'm like, that's not matchmaking, right? I'm not selling cars because you're involved. There are humans that are involved. Yes, I have a huge database and a lot of access to a lot of great guys, but I need to work with you one on one. Let's see how you show up in a relationship. What makes you dateable? What makes you marketable? Why do you keep getting into relationships and they don't work? So it is the hard work of finding who you are, the self reflection, and then the improvement. Like I had a guy in Houston. I did not send him on a date for 3 months.
Okay, explain.
He had no hobbies, no interests, no close friends. That is going to scare someone off on the first date, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What
So
are
I
you
said,
gonna
"Oh,
What are you gonna talk about?
hello, hello," right? So I said, "Okay, over the next 3 months, I need you to get at least two friends. So let's talk about places that you can go to meet people. And in your 40s, it is hard to make authentic, genuine relationships. But that is going to scare a guy away from you if you don't have a close friend. So this client had to find friends, but then also what makes you smile? What's your reason for being on the earth? He had to develop that and really find that again for himself. So I really help guys um, be their best selves, and I don't do like a cookie cutter process. I do it one by one because each guy might be different. And so before I can match you, I have to make sure that you are dateable, that you are marketable, because I can introduce, one of my a matchmaking client to some awesome guys, but they can mess that first date up because they don't have the foundation that is needed as an individual, like loving being single, being authentic, having interest in life, excelling at your career. You got to do that foundational stuff before you actually meet some awesome guys. In my matchmaking process, at least.
So, I want to touch on something that you just said about your matchmaking techniques and your process. It's no different than a quote unquote heterosexual matchmaking duo or business. Because I think a lot of the times people think that, oh, because you're a gay dating coach and a matchmaker, that it's different. It's all the same. It's just that you do have someone of a slightly different approach. But talk a little bit about that because I think there's a misconception when it comes to that.
So I do think there are tons of matchmakers out there, and all of the matchmakers, they have different processes. No business looks the same. Some are a little similar, but the dynamics, the types of relationships that gay men want are different from heterosexuals, right? And I think some heterosexual people think just because there are two gay men involved that it should work. No, there are nuances around sexuality, around compatibility, around preferences, on how we as two men navigate a relationship because the models that exist right now are very heteronormative, where the man is supposed to be the head of the house, the leader, the provider, and then the woman is supposed to be like the support, taking care of the family. And of course, some heterosexual relationships don't operate like that, but that's the model. But what happens when you have two men? Who's the head of the house? Who's the leader? Who's the support? Who gets to be more masculine? Who gets to embrace their feminine side? So I don't think heterosexual people really understand the nuances of two gay men, and then you add on how the world perceives you when you talk about discrimination, when you talk about internalized homophobia. All that work is needed to be unlearned before I send people on dates. And I think some matchmakers think, again, just because there's two men involved, it should work. But you're a gay man. You know that is not the case.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I want to step back and kind of go back to the IG origins of the show. Talk about your formula, what it is that you do, and then also talk about, did it translate moving it over to YouTube and how that transition went? Because I think that's really what I want to talk the most about right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we're right now on 2.5 years that we've been doing the Shoot Your Shot Wednesdays, and it's really for LGBTQ plus singles anywhere in the world, any age, any race. Everyone's welcome to participate as long as you're single. Right. Key thing as long as you're single. You know how many DMs I get talking about, I thought I was in a relationship with him. Listen, you that apparently you're not. So there were a number of similar dating shows that have been like on Instagram and some other platforms, but none really a safe space for gay men to actually have a safe space to talk about who they are. Because I've seen some other shows, and as soon as a gay man gets up there, they're like, "Oh my God, what a waste! He's too cute to be gay." Ladies, you lost another one. Nobody wants to hear that, right? You think that's a cute compliment, but it's actually derogatory towards gay men. So I created the show so that we would have a space to do that, and it has been growing and growing. I wanted to switch it up a little bit and move it to the YouTube platform because Instagram, which I love, and I have a hate relationship at the same time. I
We all,
love hater at the same time
don't we
because
all?
there are some technology issues. You use certain words, they will ban you for a month. Right? So I want to switch it over to YouTube because of the quality is definitely a little better. You can use StreamYard. You can have graphics going in and out. And what I think people appreciate on YouTube, they can cast it or just play it on their TV. They have the flexibility just to watch it like it's a TV show. And like literally, people have watch parties at their house. Like they'll invite friends over for wine and just watch the show. Like,
Listen, I have to admit, I've been one of those watchers. I mean, I'm married, but I find the show fascinating. And that's why I had you on originally on when I was doing the IG live show. But I love watching it on YouTube. There's something to be said about that medium and being able to watch it on multiple devices,
mhm.
being able to watch it on a big screen the way I think you really wanted it and intended to be. And
Yeah,
then, I think what you get from the show is you see that there's really all walks of gay men in the lifestyle. And
mhm.
I think what you do that's so unique is you allow them to be themselves, to be fun, to be wild, to be free, and just to express themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Chris, and I will tell you, I'm very clear on my mission. I'm very clear on why God said, "Hey, Lamont, this is why you're here." I thought I was going to be a preacher, but He had other plans, and I really want gay men to be their most authentic selves. I want them to be respected for who they choose to love. I want them to embrace the type of sex that they want to participate in because growing up and even still to this day, we are shamed and told that because who we choose to love are the type of sex that we want to engage in, that we are less than deserving love. And I want to create spaces, however that looks like, that people know that they are deserving of love and that there's a space that they can cultivate that they can publicly talk about those things. I think we are always being asked to dim ourselves, to not talk about who we choose to love, to keep that over there. And I'm like, no, I want people to thrive and to grow and just be happy with who they are.
Right. So now I know the format. Excuse me. I know the format of your show, but
Mhm.
now this is a newer audience, and probably people are going to be introduced to things that they've never heard before or are not accustomed to. Kind of break down the format because I know that when you bring people on, you ask them certain questions, and let's just talk about some of those things a little bit. Now, just as a reminder, this is more of like a PG-13 type of thing,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
we can get into it still though.
You're like Lamont, what is it?
No, you can go there. But let's go to the edge. Let's go to the
Okay,
edge.
I'll go right there, then stop.
Yeah.
Reach at me if I go too far, Chris. Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to make it as organic as possible. Sometimes people they send me messages and they'll say, "Hey, Lamont, why don't you screen the guys beforehand? Why don't you have a certain age range on this night?" Now, what I do, Chris, is I turn the camera on, I go live, and whoever clicks the request button, whoever clicks the link to join, I allow them to come on. I don't know these people. Like Color Rebel. I don't know these people, right? Some of the people I might have seen like out and about in Atlanta. I just don't know because they live in DC, they live in Los Angeles, but I want it to be a voluntary process where you're saying, hey, I want to shoot my shot. I want to put myself out there. So I allow any and everyone to come on the show. I only ask that you have good lighting, good Wi Fi, and good energy. That's it. Right? And so I will ask them a series of questions to figure out like their age, where they live, their sexual positions, the type of work that they do, what they want in a match. And then what I like, because the comment section, they're my co-host. I allow them to ask questions and they can be insightful, they can be funny, but most of the time they're spicy, Chris.
Oh,
Right?
I know. I watch.
So they'll ask questions, but they can be kind of critical also, right? They can be kind of critical, and sometimes I've had to check the chat and be like, listen, y'all, like listen for real, like I need y'all to be more positive because people are putting their hearts out and they're really looking for love. Now we do have some characters that come on, and I'm like, nah, you just being foolish, and then that's when I do like this click.
You know what? It's always surprising to me when people come on the program and don't know the format or don't know what the program is about.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
why even bother to request to be on something that you have no idea what's about? Because I watched something recently that you had on. You would ask the guy to shoot his shot. He's like, "What do you mean?" You know, I think it was something you had on like 3 days ago,
Mhm,
and he didn't
mhm.
even understand. And it's kind of like hard. Like, how do you want to be on something when you don't understand the format? Like, how do you deal with that? Because if you think about it, this is all live.
It is live, not recorded. Yeah, so throughout the show, sometimes, and I encourage this as well. I tell people, go ahead, share the video, share it with one of your single friends so they can watch the show. And I think people get excited. They're like, "Oh my goodness, there are actually single people up here," or they're like, "He seems cool. I want to click. Let me say hi to him." I'm like, "Sir, what are you doing here?" One guy came on. He was trying to flirt with me. He was like, "So, how old are you? Where do you live?" And I'm like,
Yeah, that.
the comment section, they went crazy. Back off, sir. Like I have some loyal followers, and they will fight you if you say anything negative about me, or they'll say like, "He got a man. Move on, sir. Like, don't try it." So yeah, I don't know, but we get a lot of random type of people come on. Some are new to the show, and then some have been watching for a long time. And if you've been watching for a long time, I call them shooters because the name of the show is Shoot Your Shot Wednesday. So we have a lot of shooters. Sometimes we get up to 1,000 people on YouTube in a night that watch, which I think is awesome.
That is awesome. To get a live audience of that amount is really, really good because people work years to try to get to gain that following. But you have such a great followers that they just migrated over really easy. Because like I said, I've watched on both platforms, and you see them just move right over. Now, let me ask you this: how has the transition for you been to YouTube? Do you get a lot of engagement, and do you get a lot more of the comments?
So I would say it is kicking and screaming, painful. Uh, going back between Instagram and YouTube because right now, Chris, it is split 50-50. Like there's always someone who sends me a message afterwards. Oh, you should stick to Instagram, or oh, get back on YouTube. And it's like it's the back and forth. So what I do is accommodate by doing an hour on Instagram, and then 2 hours on YouTube. They don't know this, Chris, but we're gonna find a third platform as well.
Oh,
Okay.
inside scoop, inside scoop.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a third one because what I noticed is that it's different audiences. It's different types of people like different platforms. So to accommodate everyone, you know, you might need three platforms. So we may be moving to TikTok, Facebook, or Bigo as well.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you find that YouTube is more accommodating and flexible in regards to like language? Because I know that, like you said, you had mentioned earlier, when you're on Instagram, sometimes certain words will get flagged and either it'll get bleeped out or it'll get taken down.
Yeah, so with on Instagram, certain words they will what it doesn't impact you all. What they do will do then is reduce the amount that my profile, my account is shared with other people. I will tell you, I did one video, an interview with a guy. It went like viral. I think it had about like 50,000 views. A week later, Instagram banned my account for a couple weeks because they're like some of the words that he was using, they didn't want that pushed out there. So YouTube does a little less of that. I just have to be cautious about what people say and say, listen, you can't say this here, you can't say that. Like dance around it, but don't like say certain things. Yes.
Right, right. Okay, so you're huge on Instagram, you're huge on YouTube, and you're not only on those platforms, and you're not only centralized in Atlanta. You travel and you take your show on the road. Talk
Hmm.
about all the speaking engagements, the show that you actually take on the road and do lives that way. Talk about how that came about and how's it going.
Yeah. So the success of the show, what I think is, I try not to cry from it, is that like I've been invited to a number of cities that they'll say, "Hey, Lamont, we see your show on YouTube. Can you come to our Black Gay Pride or to our conference? Or it's just a Wednesday. We want to fly you out here. We want you to do your show in person." And Chris, the number of people that show up for the live sessions it's breathtaking because it's a different energy, it's a different vibe. It is super engaging. It feels like a comedy show. I feel like a stand-up comic when I do it in person because you're on for 3 hours and you're engaging with the entire audience, with the person who's on the stage with you, but also with the people who are watching as well. And it's just a whole experience. So the in person shoot your shot is just you gotta experience. And couples, like you said, like couples watch, but couples will come to the in person as well because it's entertainment. It is entertainment, and it's just a space for us to be around each other.
Right. Now, it's so true, and I think a lot of it has to do with you and your personality. If for those that have never heard Lamont laugh, the laugh is infectious. It's
Oh Lord,
infectious.
Lord today, Lord
And
today.
that's a way that you draw people in, and
Mm,
people are attracted to that.
yeah, yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you find it harder to do the live in person shoot your shot or doing it with just the camera and the viewers?
Sir, the in person is work. It is work because there's a lot of technology involved in it, and keeping the audience engaged as well. So making it interactive, so it doesn't look like you're just in the audience watching. No, I have a whole like interactive way for people who are in the audience to ask questions real time. Um, Also making sure that people are going to be available to get on stage, and then we also do a little bit of like a mixer before and after so that people get a chance to meet each other because the singles they come and they're looking for a man, right? They're looking for somebody. They don't just want to sit back. They want to find a date and they want to have a good time. So it's a lot of work to find an appropriate venue because the gays are just not showing up anywhere. Right? So you're gonna have a nice venue. They want some good food. Of course, they want it for free, but that doesn't happen all the time. I'm like, what? So it is a whole production.
Okay. Now, speaking of production, because it's a production, do you have a team that you work with to help produce all this content?
I do. I have a very small team that helps like put on as far as like making sure people are greeted when they come in, and then also that everything goes off with a hitch.
Okay. Okay. Now let me answer this, because I know that a lot of you have the format for the IG and the YouTube. Do you use that same format when you're doing your live show? And then how does that really translate? Because I know you kind of talked about you do have some interaction and some engagement with the audience, and you do things to have them be engaged. But how does that work? Like, how does the format work?
Yeah, so the format on Instagram and YouTube are the same. They're the same. But for the in person one, I definitely have people who are in the audience. They write down questions. So as we're doing our little mixing and mingling, staff are passing out note cards for people to write down different types of questions that they want the person who's being interviewed to answer. So we'll collect all of those, we'll shuffle them up, and then we'll do it two ways. When it's time for the interview the person, I may just say, hey, this is a question that someone posed. Or I will take the questions and give them back out to the audience. I'll say, hey, you have question number 10. Stand up, ask the question. Right? So it might not be the person's question, but they have a question in their hand that they have to ask the person. So it's a great way to keep not only people who are watching it virtually engaged, but also people who are sitting in this space engaged as well.
Okay. All right, so we've come to the part where I think we want to get a little bit saucy and talk about some of the things and the questions that you ask your audience that really
Mm,
gets them engaged. The things that
mm,
they want to hear, the things that you want to hear.
So we talk about some of the saucy or like the insightful questions. Typically, guys are like, "Hey, what's your credit score?" Or they might say, "How many stamps do you have on your passport? What's your salary range?" Like some people really get into some of those intimate stuff. Have you been to therapy? Right, that's important.
Hmm.
Chris, your face is like, what? They're asking these questions. Yes, they want to know. Now, some of the more spicy questions are definitely more sexually like, and they might say like, they'll ask how big it is, whether it is snipped or not snipped.
All right, let
Um,
me stop you right there. When it comes to that question, what is the number one answer that you get?
it depends on the person. You would be so surprised because again, we have guys all over, different races, different ethnicities, and a person you think that might be snipped is not snipped. They're like, no. They're like, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. And there are different preferences because some people are like, no, I prefer it not to be sniffed if it's a certain size, right? I had someone say, like, if it's small, it needs to be snipped. If it's big, it doesn't have to be. I actually prefer it not to be. I'm like, to each his own. If that's what you like, just make sure it's clean.
There you go. What other things? What are you asking or are they asking?
Oh, there are two questions that people hate that I ask, but I ask all the time, right? One is now think sexually. Where does the baby batter
Gotcha.
go? Chris is like, mm, he's like, I'm not answering that, but I hear you. I hear you. That's one, and then the other one is, um, do your dirty talk. Like when you're in, the moment, the throes of having sex. What are you saying verbally to the person? And some of the responses, I'm like, oh my goodness, like
Ever Do you ever get a little shy when you get some of those answers, or you just heard it all? Nothing phases you anymore.
I'm gonna tell you. So my background is as a therapist, right? So I have intimate conversations with couples all the time, with people all the time, and I used to do like sexual health work. So people would talk about their sexual practices with me Monday through Friday. Like I've heard it all. They tell me the type of sex they have, how often, who with, what. So I'm like I heard it all the time. But doing this show. I'm always shocked by some of the things that people say they do sexually. I'm just like, you are lying. Are you serious? Like what? Okay, have at it. Like, yeah, yeah. It always shocks me. Yeah.
Interesting. I
Mhm.
would believe that you couldn't be shocked. The amount of shows that you've done, the amount of people that you have on. Now, let me answer this. What's your demographics like? Because a lot of times when I've seen the show, when I watch, I tend to see that tends to be a lot more of like African Americans,
Mhm.
Latinos. Do you get a lot of Caucasians on the show?
Yeah, so I think because people see my face as a black face, they're like, "Oh, this is a show only for black people." And I tell people now it's open to any race, to any ethnicity. We probably have one white person a month that joins. I definitely want um, white people to feel like it's a space for them as well. Black people are like, "No, I just want it to be our space." Like, don't. I'm like, everyone can have a seat at the table, or if someone wants to do a different show that might cater more to white gay men, sure. But I make sure it's open to any and everyone. We even have transgender men and transgender women join. Yeah, it's definitely open. We have couple lesbians that have joined before.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, like, because I don't think I've actually ever seen a lesbian on the show,
Hmm.
but like,
Hmm.
what's the conversation like when you have one on?
Oh yeah, because lesbians, as far as like their like preferences are different as well. Because there might be more like pillow princesses, someone who's more like a stud, right? And for gay men, we're like, what? Like what? I want to know you top, bottom, or a side. Like, are you versatile? That's what we're concerned about. Like, you're masculine, you're feminine. For lesbians, a whole nother nuance conversation as well.
Yeah. Do you find that people, especially a lot of the gay men that are watching the show, get kind of turned off when the conversation turns to like lesbians?
No, they're actually more like supportive. They're like, "Yes, tell me more. Like, what's
Okay.
going on?" Or, "I got a girlfriend that I want to introduce you to so that you can meet her." Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because I know that when it comes to LGBTQIA plus community, there's a lot of shaming and a lot of controversy within just the letters themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one thing that I think that we need to work on as a community as a whole. We have enough struggles having to face, everyone else around us. We shouldn't be infighting between the community itself.
Yeah, and I try to make sure, like, as a host, and that's one of the things I like about during the show is that I'm a part of the community.
Yeah.
I'm not like a heterosexual person trying to match or host a show for any and everybody. It's very nuanced for our community, and sometimes we're like someone of the trans experience might
Mhm.
come on. I see some questions about like, well, what body parts do you have, or a whole bunch of questions about their transition, and I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's not appropriate to ask the person. It's pretty invasive.
Yeah.
Can we wait until like maybe one on one later? You can ask that question. I'm not asking this person whether they like what they have under in their pants.
It's none of your
I'm,
business.
I'm no, no, ma'am, no, sir.
Yeah.
You're not going to get me with that question. Like, and I guess educating people on like how to be culturally appropriate if you're open to dating someone of the trans experience. This is how you have to approach them. Now, if they volunteer that information, then great, but don't go being an investigator just to be nosy, just to be nosy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get that. All right, so let me ask this question: where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? How do you plan on growing this brand? Because it truly is a brand. Like I said, you know, you're known from the small screen, being on TV on was it Bravo?
Bravo's Love Match Atlanta.
Is that
Yes.
is that coming back, sir?
I have no idea. One of the things I will tell you, Candy and the Gang, they had a show on Bravo, and they told them they are not getting a second season. Like once they finish, they're like, no,
Yeah,
you're not going to get a second season. However, maybe 2 months ago, they told them, hey, you're going to get a second season. And that was after like a year and a half.
yeah.
So, yeah, right. So, Bravo, things kind of go like up, they go down. You never know like what they're actually going to do. So,
I hope they bring it back, or even better, if Bravo, if you're listening, bring back just the gay dating coach. I think that that would be a great
Say it again,
show.
Chris.
That
Say
would
it again.
that would be a great show for Bravo on the gay dating coach with
Yeah,
Lamont
yeah. I don't think
White.
I will tell you, and I've looked. I don't see like any major network showcasing the lives of black gay men who are married, that have children, that navigate life. I think all the things that I have seen have been single gay men, a friend of the show. I don't think we've been able to like see us as whole people and not just as a friend, but like maybe some other LGBT networks they showcase that, but on the mainstream, no one has done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, there have been huge strides in representation in film and small screen
Mhm.
scripted shows, nothing really in reality based. And the ones
No.
that you do see, they tend to be singles, and they're always arguing, fighting over one another, and that's not always the case. I mean, here's a perfect scenario. You've got two men on the screen right now that are in married, that are in relationships, that are married, and they've been married for a while. Like, we want to be able to see more people like us,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
and then just talking about our experiences. So I definitely agree with you. But getting back to the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and how do you see your business growing? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, so definitely impacting more cities. Right now, I'm in every major city helping guys find love, doing more in person discussions. Last year, I had an opportunity of having a relationship focused event. So it wasn't speed dating, it wasn't the show. Like, we literally sat down with 200 gay men and just talked about the nuances of relationships, of how you navigate them, and giving gay men the tools that they needed to be successful with who they are. Again, I told you I'm very clear on why I'm here, and I want to continue to create platforms, whether they're virtually or in person, where men are able to get the skills that they need to be their best versions of themselves. So, look forward to doing more in person relationship conversations that are more intimate, that have some substance, but also ways that we can celebrate ourselves.
I love that. I love what you do. I think that what you're doing is necessary, is giving people an outlet and a space to be themselves, to be free. A little plug for myself. I'm just starting another show. It's called Safe Space. But mine's a little bit more focused. It's really geared towards people of Caribbean descent and Caribbean backgrounds,
Yeah.
from the LGBTQIA plus community. And I just want to be able to see more shows, more lives, more YouTube channels that address a lot of these topics. I think that people need to see themselves and to hear their stories, because one, we're not being seen enough, and
Yeah.
especially black people, Caribbean people, we're not being seen enough. So,
Yeah.
I like I said, I love what you do. I wish you nothing but continued success, and I definitely want to see more from you.
No, no, thank you, Chris. And I echo what you say is that we need to see more nuanced versions of us. And I think right now our culture is trying to put the most appealing version of gay men. It looks like this, and that is only what is okay to be seen for everyone. And I'm like, no, the world that I live in, black gay men are doctors, they're lawyers, they're professionals, they're mechanics, they own their own businesses. They raise family. They go to church. Like, they're productive. They vote. They volunteer. They advocate. Like, they're successful. They do well, and it looks different. And I feel like we can't continue just to say this is what a gay man looks like. Like, no, let's see us all, our own community. Because if not, the narrative that we're not successful, that we can't find love, will continue to be out there, and that is damaging to our community. So let's see some more images, please.
Native Son now. We need some
Oh, I
more.
love Native Son.
Um,
Yes, yes.
uh,
Emil's doing great work.
yeah,
Yes.
black gay weddings, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like those are great platforms, and I want to see more like that.
Mhm.
Any other parting words before we say goodbye?
I will say, also check out my website. It's betterwaytomeet.com. I think it's definitely a better way to meet because um, using online dating apps and websites, they can be okay, but you are pushing through a lot. Like you're weeding out a lot. So check out my website, betterwaytomeet.com. It's a more intimate, private, and successful way for guys to get married. Like my guys get married when
Okay,
that matchmaking process.
okay. Well, listen, Lamont, this has been amazing as usual. I love talking with you. I love spending time with you and hearing what you're doing and just what you're doing in the community. Be sure that I'll have all of his information down below in the descriptions. And Lamont, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Take Two. And join me next week for another amazing guest. And we'll take a look back and see what they're doing. All right. Have a great one, everyone. See you next week. Bye bye. Thanks for watching this show on Indie Soup Media. Now, if you're watching here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification button so that you can get notified when we drop new videos every week. See you guys next time.